Welcome to the Rainy Days Mystery Quilt. This is clue number 2 for the summer of 2022. We'll get right to the cutting. Remember, measure twice, cut once. From your charm pack, you want to pick out 20 squares. I'm just going through and trying to make sure I have some of every color and I don't end up with all of the same design or all of the same color. For my alternate color version, I'm going to be using one fabric for all of these squares. So instead of 20 different fabrics, I will have one fabric. Once I pick out my 20 squares, I'm going to double check and count them so I have all 20 and I'm not missing something. Once I'm sure I have all 20 squares, I'm going to make 4 piles of 5 squares. I'm comfortable cutting through 5 layers of fabric for the next step, but if you're not, you can make 10 piles of 2 fabrics or 5 piles of 4 fabrics. And then you want to cut these squares into 20 squares that measure 4.5 inches by 4.5 inches. I'm lucky that I can walk around my cutting table, so I'm going to do 2 sides for all 4 piles on this side of the table, and then I'm going to walk around to the other side of the table and cut the other 2 sides. If you can't walk around your cutting table, you can always cut 2 sides, spin the mat 180 degrees, and then cut the other 2 sides. That way you don't have to move the fabric around and you get more accurate cuts. I'm using my 4.5 inch ruler so that I know I just have to go all the way around the ruler to make my cuts. Using tools that are properly sized for your cuts make the job a lot easier. If you're enjoying our mystery, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any of the future clues. I'm going to take some time to lay out my pieces and match them up with the rectangles from the Pile B bag. And the nice thing about matching them up now is I make sure that I don't start sewing and then I end up with 2 fabrics that are the same that are being sewn together. So this way I can spread out the fabrics from Pile B and match them to the squares. Once I have them matched the way I like it, I'm just going to pile this up and take it over to the sewing machine. It's time to sew. Use 1/4 inch seam allowances. Sew the rectangles onto opposite sides of the 4.5 inch squares. Take the top rectangle off the pile and place it next to your sewing machine, and then the other one is already face down on top of that square. Just rearrange it so that it's perfectly lined up and then sew it to the square. And if you keep these in order, the next step will be a lot easier. It took me a little while to get into the rhythm of doing that, but once I did, it made everything go faster. Once you're done sewing, get your blade saver thread cutter out and carefully cut the pieces apart. You want to make sure you're cutting them in reverse order, so the last one that you sewed is the first one you cut, and stack them up carefully in order. We are not going to the ironing board quite yet. We're going to cut these apart and sew the second rectangle on before we head to the ironing board. Now that they're all cut apart, and you have your pile of rectangles that you saved from when you were going through, all you have to do is flip that pile over and they should be ready just to line them up onto the squares on the other side with the matching fabric and send it through the machine. I love using these little organization and piecing tricks to help my sewing go faster. I do double check on some of the lighter colored fabric that they are right sides together. It's easy to flip those over and not realize it. Once they're all sewn together, it's time to cut them apart with your blade saver thread cutter and take them over to the ironing board. Press away from the 4.5-inch square or toward the rectangles. And just like that, clue 2 is done. Make sure you put it back in the bee bag and store it away for the next time we're doing a mystery clue. I'm also working on my second colorway, which is the scrappy version that has the blue and the browns and the greens. I've got to make sure I get them both tucked away and put in the proper bags. To get a copy of this pattern, you can go to our The Quilted Forest Friends group on Facebook, and you'll find a file that you can download and print at home. You can also push pause when the pattern is up on the screen and take a screenshot and just print it at home. We hope that you will hit that like button, make a comment on our video, share with your quilting friends, and most importantly, subscribe. That would really help us out. Thanks for watching and happy quilting!